Hello, happy believers. Today we will look at the book of Daniel, chapter 3, 1 to 30. This is a great piece of Bible history, showing us again how God looks after his own people. This is a full chapter, so I suggest you read it after my reflection to get the full understanding and see how it speaks to your heart. King Nebuchadnezzar made a golden statue, 60 cubits high and 6 cubits wide. And he set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then King Nebuchadnezzar sent word to all his officials of the provinces to attend the dedication of the statue he had set up. As they stood before the statue, it was proclaimed, "O people of every nation and language, this is what you are commanded. You must fall down and worship the golden statue that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. And whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown into the blazing fiery furnace." So the people of every nation and language fell down and worshipped the golden statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Reflection. This ruling went against the second of the 10 Commandments. You will not make idols. The threat was whoever would not obey would be thrown into a fire. That was a time when people worshipped different gods, so to bow down to this statue was not a big deal for the vast majority of people. But for people with faith, it was huge, because they had clear instruction from God through Moses what was and what was not acceptable behaviour, and they knew they could bow to no other God than their own. Then it was discovered some Jews, 3 friends of Daniel, who were appointed to manage the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, ignored the king and refused to serve his gods or worship the golden statue he had set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, furious with rage, summoned the 3 to himself. Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, is it true that you do not serve my gods or worship the golden statue I have set up? If you refuse to worship, you will be thrown at once into the blazing fiery furnace. Then what God will be able to deliver you from my hands?" But they replied to the king, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If the God whom we serve exists, then he is able to deliver us from the blazing fiery furnace and from your hand, O king. But even if he does not, let it be known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the golden statue you have set up." Reflection. Here they were faced with a choice, and a very difficult one, which possibly filled them with fear, knowing their king was full of rage towards them and had no problem in throwing them into the furnace. There will be a huge consequence to their reply, but they don't hesitate in replying. They knew their God and what he was capable of, and this fills them with courage, replying, "He is able to deliver us from the blazing fiery furnace and from your hand, O king. But even if he does not, let it be known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the golden statue you have set up." Whether God was going to deliver them or not, they were still courageous enough to stand their ground. They were willing to die. They knew their God had the final say, and they were willing to take the chance either way to please their God. They were true and obedient to God. At this, Nebuchadnezzar was filled with rage and the expression on his face changed towards them. He gave orders to heat the furnace 7 times hotter than usual, and he commanded some mighty men of valour in his army to tie them up and throw them into the blazing fiery furnace. So they were tied up, wearing robes, trousers, turbans, and other clothes, and they were thrown into the blazing fiery furnace. The king's command was so urgent, and the furnace so hot, that the fiery flames killed the men who carried them to the fire to throw them in. And the 3 men, firmly bound, fell into the blazing fiery furnace. Suddenly, King Nebuchadnezzar jumped up in amazement and asked his advisers, "Did we not throw 3 men firmly bound into the fire?" "Certainly, O king," they replied. "Look," he explained, "I see 4 men, unbound and unharmed, walking about in the fire, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods." Then Nebuchadnezzar approached the door of the blazing fiery furnace and called out, "Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out." So Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego came out of the fire. They saw that the fire had no effect on the bodies of these men. Not a hair of their heads was singed. Their robes were unaffected, and there was no smell of fire on them. Nebuchadnezzar declared, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants who trusted in him." They violated the king's command and risked their own lives rather than serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore, I decree that the people of any nation or language who say anything offensive against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego will be cut into pieces, and their houses reduced to rubble. For there is no other God who can deliver in this way. Then the king promoted the 3 of them in the province of Babylon. Reflection. They entrusted themselves into God's hands, and God delivered them in their time of trial. They would have known the history of their ancestors and the wonderful miracles God performed for them, including Abraham, Sarah, and Moses, just to mention a few. Total reliance, blind trust in God was always rewarded by miraculous events. This miracle did not even have to be explained. It was seen right before King Nebuchadnezzar's eyes, where he saw the glory of God working in front of him, and he could only declare, "Blessed be their God." And the 3 got promoted in the end as well. Even though they were bound up going into the fire, they were unbound walking out the fire. The fire even burnt what bound their hands and legs, but there was nothing else burnt or scorched. God unbounds us in many ways from our shackles and chains, setting us free. We can ask ourselves, what do I need to be freed from? Can I trust God and be courageous? What a wonderful outcome they had. This is the same God in our lives today, and especially as we go through different trials, this event tells us that God is with us. He will see us through. God is closer than we think. He has a miraculous solution. Expect the unexpected. Entrust ourselves into God's hands. Be faithful to Him. Trust, obey, and watch how He works things out. Be courageous, knowing that He loves us and takes care of us. Next painting, very, very soon. Watch this space. Until then, remember, take that leap of faith and trust in God to do the rest.